The Panic of 1857 was a financial panic in the U.S. that increased tensions between the North and the South. The causes were grain prices falling, which spread economic misery into rural areas. The fall of prices mostly affected the North because they were more invested in the grain industry. Manufactured goods piled up in the warehouses, leading to massive layoffs. Railroads and land speculation programs collapsed, ruining thousands of investors. The Dred Scott decision, which opened up all Western territories to slavery, caused land values to decrease, making Americans believe moving west was a risky investment. The Southern economy suffered little due to the continued demand for cotton in Europe. The Northern economy, however, made a slow recovery. Blame for the panic was put on the South because of their pro-slavery agenda. The South believed that the collapse of Northern industry validated the plantation economy and proved the North needed the South to regulate a steady economy. Due to these beliefs, the South thought that the North would cave to their demands, so they continued to push for more political concessions from Congress. This caused tensions to rise between the North and the South that would eventually lead to war.
Republican Abraham Lincoln and Democrat Stephen Douglas both wanted the Senate seat in the state of Illinois. To do so, they held a debate in each congressional district of Illinois and fought over this position in a series of 7 debates. These debates took place across the state of Illinois in 7 different cities, including Ottawa, Freeport, Jonesboro, Charleston, Galesburg, Quincy, and Alton. Debates were mainly focused on the issue of slavery and the moral logic behind it. Slavery was an extremely argumentative topic at this time in the United States. Debates drew large amounts of people who wanted to listen to these sophisticated arguments that often were lengthy, meaningful, and strongly agreed on by those who were opinionated on the topic. Even newspapers took words from the American opinions on these debates. In the end, debates helped shape the core philosophies of the nation's political parties.
In October 1859, the USA military engine base was targeted for assault out in Harpers Ferry. This raid was led by abolitionist John Brown. This raid was the first stage in a huge plan to free slaves in the mountains and make slavery illegal. Brown and his men were captured and seized. The federal armory and arsenal that they stole was brought back to the military base.
Brown was convicted of treason, and Henry David Thoreau issued a plea in Brown's defense, but sadly he was hanged. Even though the raid did not go as planned, it still had an effect and inflamed the white Southerners of slave rebellions and also increased tensions between the South and the North states.
During the succession of the South, Abraham Lincoln was president due to the election of 1860. People, specifically Southerners, felt the government was too strong, and if they stayed, the North would control them. Therefore, Southern states decided to leave the Union and form the Confederate States of America. The first states to go were Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, and Louisiana, followed by Virginia, Arkansas, North Carolina, and Tennessee. They then elected Jefferson Davis as president to the Confederacy. Lincoln was willing to fight to keep the states in the Union. There were Union forts set up, and when they refused to leave, the Confederates fired cannons at them on April 12, 1861, beginning of the Civil War.
One of the nominees was Republican Abraham Lincoln, who supported to repeal the Fugitive Slave Law and later would gain support on the goal of secession. Another was nominee slaveholder John Bell, who wanted to harshly enforce the Fugitive Slave Law. The Democrats in April 1860 met to elect their nominee, though they were deeply divided. Stephen Douglas was considered a traitor of most of the Southern states' leaders after his opposition to admitting Kansas as a slave state. Senator Jefferson Davis insisted on a platform to protect the constitutional right of any citizen of the United States to take his slave property to the common territories. During a meeting, one-third of the delegates, nearly all Southerners, and a few pro-slavery North states walked out of the convention. The remaining who stayed nominated Douglas on a popular sovereignty platform for the North. The delegates who walked out of the meeting a fourth time nominated Breckinridge on Davis's platform for the South. On Election Day, November 1860, Republican victory was clear. Breckinridge carried most of the South with 18% of popular votes. Bell only gained 15% of the popular vote, and Douglas walked out with 30%. But Abraham Lincoln gained 40% of the popular vote, which was the most of any single candidate. He was the next president-elect.